All right, we're live. We're going to talk about load boards, check out the volumes. Is that holiday rush happening? And we'll see what the weather's like too. So stay tuned right after this. Ah, yes. Good morning. It's been a minute. I know. Good doggy. Um, we're live. It's Friday, December 12th. We're almost there. We're almost there. Let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days to Christmas. I think someone should write a song about that. So, anyways, good morning. Make sure the song is annoying and you got to repeat a lot. That'll be a great song. We'll title it 12 Days of Christmas, right? Anyways, we're in the 12 days of Christmas, right? So I've noticed some increase. I noticed I haven't had to fight for some money here lately, so that's been good. The weather outside there. Now, I would have went live earlier, but Shannon Thomas delayed me because she needed something. She needed a Raycon or something like that, so I had to help her with that. And then she hung out in Nashville for like 2 weeks and did not give me a Gibson guitar. So that should tell you the kind of person Shannon Thomas is. So anyways, oh, look at this. Look at this. I always like seeing stories like this. Paid off my SFI truck with your advice at Landstar. Awesome. Awesome. Good deal, man. Good deal. I'm glad to see that sometimes my words come out all right and people can be successful. And I'm not some be all end all. I'm just a guy who's made a lot of mistakes and sees a lot of mistakes. And we had a whole discussion. Shannon and Jeff and I had a whole discussion about teaching drivers, simple things like money management, account management, basic skills like scanning PDFs and communication with brokers. These are all very important things, just as important as the driving aspect of moving the rig down the road. So, but I go from experience, not from because I read it in the book. This is sometimes most of my lessons have been hard learned, right? Hard taught and hard learned. So, anyways, let's go over the comments here, and then we're going to take a look while we go over the comments, which I've got them in the chat anyways, or the screen anyways, but we're going to read them because people like to hear their names. Let's share the screen. I want you guys to look at the weather. There's going to be a good storm system. I highly recommend I highly recommend, whether you're a driver or not, to where are we at? There we go. To watch Ryan Hawley, y'all, on YouTube, because he puts up updates that can tell you what you're going to get through. And if you're going through any of these northern states, it's going to get messy today. This is for today, but then throughout the weekend, it's going to go up into the Northeast. So I've put a few rate cons in for a couple of drivers up in the Northeast. I won't be surprised if I have to take them down because of cancellations. Also, freeze protect will be very important this weekend because, like, I think here it's supposed to be in the 11 single digits, 11s, teens, whatever. Up north, it's going to be even worse. So, cold weather advisory up in like Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and then of course Montana's all messed up as usual. But you have extremely cold wind chills up here, the kind that will shut your truck down and you could die if you don't get help soon. So it's very important that you pay attention to this weather stuff, especially when it comes to your own life, but also because of your freight. If you have a truckload of water or soda and it freezes because it's 10 below zero and the truck breaks down, that's a cargo claim. That will be a cargo claim. So just be aware of these things. Now, a smart broker should also be paying attention, and the shippers should also be paying attention. The guy up in North Dakota is not going to put a truckload of soda in a dry van if it's going to Wisconsin, that kind of thing. So there should be some common sense there, but don't try to, I try to put myself in a position where I don't count on anybody. You make the precautions, you cover your butt. That's the important part. So anyways, congratulations, Chevy Cut 85. I'm glad. I'm glad to see that. So let's go over the comments here. Cheap Freight Hauler, good morning from Tennessee. Did you hang out with Shannon? She was up there for like 3 weeks, I think, getting her truck worked on. WCF Invader, what's up, man? Haven't talked to you in a minute. Hope you're doing well. Nothing Witty is in the house. Shannon, are you rolling again? Yep, it's because of her that I'm late on this live feed. CDN Freight Broker made it. Good morning, Mr. Steve. Only negative 17 Fahrenheit. Feels like negative 25 with windows. Probably wind chills. I'm putting everything in my freezer outside and unplug the freezer to save a few bucks. Yeah, that's pretty cold, man. That's pretty cold. So 10 days before I need to start my Christmas shopping. That's funny. That's funny. Gary Cook, what's up? But I like seeing this. Paid off my SFI truck with your advice. I'm glad somebody takes my advice. Gary Cook, good morning. Maybe I did. No, you didn't. You didn't buy me nothing. Good morning, Don. What's up? At what temp should I add anti-gel? That is a great question. Okay. So now take it from me. I've had my fuel filters freeze up 3 times in my career. So I may not be the best advice, but here's what I've learned through those mistakes. That Howe's diesel treatment is trash. It doesn't work. Each brand has a temperature gauge on it. And so pay attention to that. Howe's is good for like, 30s, maybe 20s. I used Power Source, but then I switched to Lucas that had the moisture disbursement or whatever. That one never gave me any problem. Power Source. So the first time, okay, so let me go back. The first time I had fuel filters freeze, I was a company driver, and our company supplied us with hows. Like they like, here, take a whole case, put it in there. And that was the first time. That was during that polar vortex back in, I want to say 2010 ish, 11 ish. Um, I was stuck in Carlisle all weekend, or all week actually. And luckily, I had a load of junk mail, so I didn't have to worry about freeze protecting the trailer. But yeah, that was a bad deal. Um, so house is not great. The second time I had fuel filter freeze up was in Indiana. It was my first kind of breakdown that I dealt with in the Peterbilt, my first truck when I was at Landstar. And I had a load of hazmat on too. And I spent the night in South Bend, Indiana, and I couldn't bump up my idle. I idled the truck, but I couldn't bump it up. And so it had issues. And then there's a whole story there. Maybe I'll tell that story to the members only side or a separate video or whatever. And I used power source, but that was like negative like 30s. That was pretty harsh conditions. Then one more time in the Kenworth, I ran the APU. I didn't idle the truck. And I didn't think it got about 10, 15 degrees, which normally I never had any problems with. But the way the Kenworth T680 is, that filter's right there by the tire, away from the APU part that keeps that part warm, right? So it caught me by surprise. It gelled up, and I lost a day over at the TA trying to get it, fixed, because I will admit I've never changed my own filter because of everybody that's ever changed it. I've seen struggle with it. So I like, well, these guys with the tools and knowledge can't do it. I definitely can't do it, right? So the APU wasn't enough. And so from that point on, I always idled the truck if it got below 20 degrees for the whole night. Now, my idle time on my Kenworth was very, very low because my carrier APU was a champ. I had a great experience with that thing. And then after that, I never had an issue. And but I always kept like 2 bottles of power source, also a bottle of the 911. But then I switched to Lucas because it was rated for lower temperature. So each has a rated lower temperature. So the short answer, it depends on if you got nothing but Southern fuel, then I would do it when it starts getting around 32. When you're like, let's say you get fuel in Louisiana and then you end your trip up in, say, Chicago, you want to try to get as much as the winterized fuel in there as you can, and you're going to have to treat that a little bit more than, say, the winterized fuel up in the north. So, and it's also hard on your fuel filters, and you don't want to run your fuel too low. I know several drivers that are always below a quarter tank, and that's a bad deal. Don't do that. That's hard on your injectors, especially if you're getting close to empty. You're getting nothing but the trash on the bottom, and you're going to go through fuel filters. So it's a whole thing, right? So that's my opinion. Now, on YouTube, there is a video out there somewhere of someone who tests all these different brands of diesel fuel treatment anti-gels, and he does it with glass jars, and it's pretty fascinating to see which ones were good and which ones weren't. Now, Jeff uses a different brand, and I don't remember the name of that brand, but Power Source and the Lucas were the 2 that I used. I do not know a good anti-gel either. Will Burner Express recommended Howes, and he drove the ice roads without issue. I had fuel filters free with the Fuel Ox anti-gel. I would recommend DIY semis video him being on anti-gel. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I never had one freeze up, but I've always had diesel APU to keep everything warm, but fuel line between the tank and the block concerns me. Yeah, and that's where I got in trouble. Especially with the 680. I don't know if the new 680s are the same way, but mine pointed down and it was right there by the wheel well. And so when the truck was at home, I would keep the APU warm, but I would also put a baby diaper around the glass bowl, and that kept it from gelling up here at the house. So like if I was, let's say I was going to run this weekend and I was going to leave out till Saturday, what I would do is Friday night, tonight, I would start up the APU to let it run just the whole time. And I would wrap the fuel filter. So when I go to start the truck tomorrow morning, I would be good to go. And then you always want to run your truck at least 15 minutes, idle 15 minutes to get everything going. That way that dev fluid, because that's another aspect. If your dev fluid freezes, and so if it's negative 20, that dev fluid's frozen. I think its freeze point is like 16 degrees. And so if you try to run your truck hard and the def is still frozen, then that could cause a lot of issues as well. So to me, that's one of the, add that to the list of bad things I hate about DPF trucks, is that no one realizes that. We're all worried about diesel fuel anti-gel, but the DEF fluid freezes as well. And if your truck's not running, that heater in that line is not working. So the new 680s with the Packard do not have the Davco water separator, just 2-inch amount of fuel filters. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Decline that. So that's interesting. All right. So, anyways, so if you're up in these areas, up in the upper Midwest, and then also Ohio, Indiana, it's not showing too much in Illinois, but I think that's going to change tomorrow. And I think they were calling for about 9 to 12 inches of snow in Columbus area. So, it's going to get gnarly this weekend. Go watch Ryan Holleyall's video, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So. All right, so you now here for the low board stuff. I know this is the star of the show, right? You don't want anything to do with me. Let's put this on Van. Now, the other thing I've been looking at every Friday is I do use the DAT board as well. So let's go to here. Let's refresh this. Outbound volumes are fairly high, 739 in Arkansas, 785 in Alabama versus 1021 going in. But Arkansas is good coming out. Arizona's been better coming out. And it's been actually better going in. The rates going in and out of Arizona have actually increased. I've noticed that. Colorado is no good also. Let's see. Florida's got quite a bit coming out. It's we're at 2785 going in and 1080 coming out, which normally it's usually around 300 or 400. So that's kind of a nice sign. Georgia, though, has got a lot less outbound, so you're probably going to struggle a little bit more to get good rate out of Georgia, especially if you're going up the Midwest. If you're getting a good rate out of Georgia right now, check where it's going, because it's probably going to a state that's going to be snowed in. Because what I forgot to mention is upstate New York, this whole lake effect area is going to be also under a lot of snow, I think, like on Saturday and Sunday. This is just for today. Eventually, all that's going to come up. Oh yeah, we're on the dashboard here. Illinois has got 3,000 loads coming out. Indiana's got 2,200 coming out. Kansas is not so great. Kentucky looks really good. You got to be careful with Kentucky. A lot of alcohol comes out there, so if you don't have the proper permits, that can get you in trouble. Louisiana's got 704 coming out. Now, this is just on the dashboard. Missouri's got 1,206 coming out. So Missouri's been, there's more going in than out. So Missouri's been kind of decent, okay. Let's see. North Carolina's got 1338 coming out. New Jersey's got 2000 coming out. Ohio's got almost 3000 coming out. PA's got 3000 coming out. This is all drive-in, by the way. Wisconsin looks good. We had a truck get a really good rate out of Wisconsin going to Missouri yesterday. So let's see here. Volumes here. This is for van. This is the hot market map on 123 load board. You can try my code 48065 for free if you want it. Check it out. Don't take my word for it. Try it out, and if you don't like it, then tell me I suck. All right, Minnesota's got quite a bit outbound. Wisconsin looks pretty good. Illinois looks good. Missouri, Ohio. And yeah, it looks like Ohio's got the most outbound volume so far that I've hovered over. And if you're on the app, it's going to look like this. It's going to be a density list, not a map. And right away, you can kind of see it goes through all the states. You know, red is bad, yellow is and green is good. Green doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a good rate. It's just a little bit easier to find loads. That's how this is gauged. That's why you see Florida green. So if you know if it's red like Montana, there's only 32 outbound loads in Montana right now. So if you see a $5 mile run going to Montana, well, that's why. Right there. You know, let's zoom that in a little bit. That's why. So pay attention to the weather, because I've had drivers call me, oh, I got X amount or and then realize there's a hurricane coming or a blizzard coming, or, you know, and then they're snowed in for 3 days and they lose money that way. So can you get $3 Miami to Chicago? Maybe, if you're good. But anyways, let's take a look at Missouri. Let's see. Let's sort this by pickup date. Let's see what's coming out of here. 2,300 to go to Virginia. So you're going to be in that weather. 274 mile. Mechanicsburg, PA, I would ask for a lot more. They're at, Raycheck's got this at 25. They're at 1875. Let's see. Missouri to Clarksville. I know what this is. That's going to be Walmart. A lot of Walmart stuff going on right now. Now, if you're late for a Walmart load, what happened to my signal here? If you're late for a Walmart load, you'll be turned around and you could lose up to a day to a week to 10 days. I've seen it happen, because then they got to reschedule you. If you're within an hour, it depends on the Walmart DC. Now, if you're delivering to an individual store like Sam's Club store, they're a lot more flexible. But just be aware of the weather and the conditions, because look, let's look at Pennsylvania, for example. Pennsylvania doesn't even have to be under bad weather, and they will close the roads before the weather hits to semi trucks. So that's something that you may not have control over, right? And I hear a lot of people, well, I'm not afraid of snow, but it's not yourself that, I mean, yeah, you should know your abilities. However, it's everybody else's abilities that you got to worry about. If you know how to be safe and keep it slow and keep it out of the ditch, good on you. But what about that truck that doesn't know what they're doing and slides into you? Or they wipe out the interstate and you're stuck there doing nothing. That's why you should always have plenty of fuel, plenty of food, plenty of water, because you might be stuck on the interstate for 2 days if something gets closed because of an accident. I had a buddy of mine that went through that in, I want to say New York on I-81 during a big, huge snow event. They had to call out the National Guard to help with fuel, and he didn't have any food, barely had enough water. And his APU went out and he couldn't idle the truck, but more than like 15 minutes. So, I mean, you got to take this stuff into consideration. So PA to Ohio under $2 a mile. That's fairly normal. Probably get a little bit more for that. 450 a mile to go from PA to Connecticut. So 1,500 for 333 miles. Let's look at this. Edge Logistics. Edge Logistics, they make it easy to book. They use Parade. Only $20 in tolls. This would be a good fast run right here. And they're already above the average. That's what I'm noticing. A lot of posted rates are already above the average. Then you got this 84 PA to New Mexico or Minnesota. I thought that said New Mexico for a sample. I need new glasses, I guess. I do have an eye appointment coming up, I think next month. PA to Chicago, 1 minute old. So a lot of loads being posted at the last minute. A lot of them. Check this out. These are all a minute old. Now, let's see. It's hard to get a good outbound rate in PA unless you're going to Connecticut, New York, Maine. Maine's going to be all messed up with weather this weekend, I believe. So just be aware when you're running these areas. Here we've got York, PA to Plant City, Florida. Not a posted rate. No posted rate. Let's take a look at this. Picks up at 3 a.m. on Monday. Looks like the average is around between 24 and 26. No toll costs. So trying to get to Florida, that might be a good one. Here's $2 a mile to go from Pittsburgh to Pell City, Alabama. That's still below my cost per day. Picks up today at 8:39 a.m., which means it's probably needs to go now. So you might be able to negotiate this up a little bit. 21,000 pounds, $17 in tolls. And I've actually had better luck out of Alabama than months past. Went through an Arkansas inspection station yesterday. 12 inspectors inspecting 12 trucks, and 5 trucks pulled to the side like they may have been out of service. Yeah, they're still hammering the English proficiency thing, I bet. They don't want to lose their federal funding. Here's York, PA to Clewiston, Florida, 246 a mile. Let's take a look at this one. You're looking at no tolls. They're totes, so it's going to be this tanker endorsement. That might be good. That's probably why it's paying decent. But you're also, how far down is Clewiston? That's pretty far down there. So a lot of good freight. So yeah, PA's not doing too bad. What was the outbound on this side for PA? Now I'm happy to see these numbers because here lately Fridays have been like dead on volumes. Yeah, 3,001 loads coming out. Let's refresh this, see if it goes up. It went down a little bit. So loads are disappearing, and here's the thing. So let's take a look at that. Let's remove that search here. Proceed. Showing 2943 out of PA. Let's sort. A lot of stuff was 0 minutes old. But here you got stuff like this. Like here you got Axle Logistics 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 postings. They do a lot of the like the TQL style different origins and destinations. So you have to be careful with that. Wayfinder's got a bunch. And that's the thing. So let's say you want to do a lane from say Houston to Louisiana, right? So what we do is we put Louisiana in here. And you can see if this lane, this is how I look for this lane in DAT. But look at the brokers. Here's the important part. Look at the brokers that have this stuff. And what it's doing. And then switch this around. Hit this little blue button up here, switch it around. Oh, I got PA up here for some reason. Let's do this. Texas. Actually, we'll do Houston. Search. All right, 4 results. Not very many, right? Now, there's not a whole lot of loads from Louisiana back to Houston, but if we flip this around, it goes from 4 to 68. So that's an imbalance of an out and back scenario. But what you can do is look at the brokers that have this freight and call them and say, hey, man, how often do you have this lane? I want to do an out and back. Like Logistics Dynamics has Houston to Shreveport, a bunch of those. TQL's got a few of those if it's a real posting. And if you flip this around, just know that you're probably going to have to create a triangle, not out and back. But you can call Echo and say, how often do you have this Gramercy to LaPorte? And oh, we got 3 of these a week. Then you coordinate with, that's how you find your lanes if you want to do out and back in a certain lane, right? You can do that with any load board. So let's look at reefer here. A lot of reefer is going to be needed up in the north because of the freeze protect. Oh, wow, look at that. Checkerboard. That's interesting. Colorado's green, Idaho's green, Washington's green, California, Arizona, Texas. It's kind of spotty all over the place. Let's take a look at what's coming out of Nebraska, shall we? $3.13 a mile to go to Florida from Lincoln. Now, Raycheck's got this at $5,000. This isn't until the 17th, so I imagine they're probably not going to come up right now. Yep, 35. This is a freeze protect load right here. That's what this is. Or produce, but I doubt produce is coming out of Nebraska this time of year. Or fresh meat or something like that. What do I know? I don't usually utilize reefer very much. So let's sort this by highest rate. 330 a mile to go to Florida. 313. 330. 288 to go to Allentown. Lots of above $3 mile freight coming out of Nebraska right now. So keep that in mind. Let's look at Idaho. Almost $3 a mile to go to Medford, Wisconsin. $292 a mile, $4,600. course, the highest rates are going to go into the Northwest. Here we go. 410 a mile, 2,300 to go to Portland. SST, what's up? Josh the Vegan, what's up? So not bad rates coming out here. 6,800 to go to Bartow, Florida. Now, if you notice, it's still below the rate check. And I want to say Florida's a little bit easier to get a reefer out than a van for okay rate. But again, I don't. My experience with reefer refrigerated freight is very limited. It seems like Wisconsin to Idaho would be a good lane for a reefer. Wimpy McCoat was coming out of Cleveland. We could take a look at that for reefer or van. So what we can do is let's go to market rates here. Let's do Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Boise. And put this on reefer. Now, Wisconsin to Idaho is at 43.63. Then we reverse it. $41.63 on Cargo Chief. I'm looking at Cargo Chief. So here it's 51.87, and here it's 42.61. So yes, you are correct. Now let's look down here. It's going to be hard to do an out and back scenario, at least on the 123 low board. So just that's where this down here. Now this is for the next 3 days. So again, you can use the same process. Find the brokers that have got the freight that do that, and then say, how often do you do this? Now, of course, you're dealing with a lot more of this weather by running this lane. So I mean that's going to be a hardship in and of itself. Cleveland and van. All right, so let's go to load availability. Let's go to search. Where's search? Find loads. What days? We'll put this on any date. 150-mile radius of Cleveland. Round trip. Ton of loads coming out of Cleveland. Look at that. Today and tomorrow. All right. So what we do is we edit this for today, tomorrow. Let's do Sunday too. Man, if you don't want a deadhead, Cleveland's the place to be. So let's sort this by highest rate. You need a long haul driver? Wimpy? $1.87 to go to California. That's actually kind of high coming out of Ohio. Usually it's $1.20, $1.30. There's several of these Dearborns to Miami. A little low, but $3,000 to go to Arizona. It's a little low. 274 to go to Winter Haven from Findlay. Now, if I sort this by posted age, this is showing that Cleveland's got a lot coming right out. And that puts you in the Columbus market too, so that helps quite a bit. And if there's not a posted rate, that means they want you to price it. They want you to set the anchor. So set it high. Especially if you're going to like this Massachusetts, Connecticut, that's going to be some hardships. Like 349 to go to Connecticut. Let's take a look at this one. What's the rate coming back from Arizona? From Cleveland? Give me a second here. We'll take a look at that. This would be a good load. No toll costs, but you're going to probably deadhead to Jersey or Pennsylvania to get out. So what we do is go to market rates. Let's do Cleveland to Phoenix. Put this back on van. So anywhere from 26 to 48, that's quite a huge spread. So but I'm going to say it's around 33 to 35 is what I usually get. There's only 4 going to from Cleveland going to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix there's only 1 going back to Cleveland. But let's switch, and we're looking at a higher outbound rate, 4,000. But this is a very volatile. So it goes back to what I said earlier. This is a very volatile market because check out this range here, 23.37 to 66.16. Look at that. It's all over the place. So it historically, this is a very volatile market, right? And so let's switch this around. Let's do Cleveland to Phoenix. Yeah, it's just as volatile. So if this is something you want to do all year long, just back and forth between those two, then just know that sometimes you're going to make it good, and then other times you're not. Also depends on the product as well, right? Now, if we go back to your search, let's sort this by highest rate per mile, and that'll give us a lot of the short haul stuff. Like 800, 700, 1,100 to go to Harrisburg, PA. $1,000 to go to PA. 1,300. So the highest paying lane in the short haul is going to PA. Here's one for 444 mile going to Ballston Spa, New York, wherever that is. Let's take a look. Kind of smack dab in the middle of the state there. New glass bottles. Depending on what your rate per day is, this might be worth, some of the short haul like these 423s. I don't mess with them. 650. No, I'd want to get that up to 7 at least. Now, if you could do 2 of these a day, it's only 186 loaded miles and just round trip it, then that could be good, but I doubt that's how it's gonna work. 1,700 go to Tennessee. Let's take a look at this one, West Jefferson. You don't go east of Ohio? Yeah, I don't blame you. This puts you in a decent market. Memphis has been pretty good here lately. Solar panels. Now, the good thing about solar panels is this broker, I'm familiar with this broker. I've done these runs. If you remember when Sterling was over here at Like Trucking, we were running a bunch of these solar panels doing Ohio. And so what's great about these is that it's a project that's done for quite a while. And so you can call Keller and say, hey, how many of these a week do you have? And if you could find the backhaul from Adamsville, Tennessee to Ohio, you can just run this back and forth. Now, you go down here, there's 28 loads going from Adamsville, Tennessee to Ohio, and there's 37 going right from Adamsville, Tennessee to West Jefferson. So boom, you click on that little number. Now you can see all the backhauls that will get you out of there. And so you can kind of rinse and repeat. And if you can find the broker that's got a lot of this, like Red Classic obviously has a bunch coming out of West Memphis. So let's take a look at these. Now, we're not interested in this stuff. We're just interested in a little bit of details. Palletized beverages. So, of course, you'd have to worry about freeze protect depending on the weather, but beverages are pretty consistent, especially this time of year. You got NFL in full swing, and then basketball's going to start soon, and then you've got the holidays, all that stuff. So, the vegan says, I've done solar panels, Ohio to Missouri. That was an easy load. Right. And so what it is they're filling up a field usually. And so there's probably several of these loads, and you're usually pretty flexible on the appointment times. So I mean that's if you find the broker that has a project like that, you can get some consistency. So anyways, I'm gonna have to get off here. Work has been blowing up my phone, so I need to be a responsible adult and get back to working. Thanks for watching. 48065 if you want to try it out for free for yourself. Don't take my word for it. And I'm sorry I haven't been live. I was gonna go live Wednesday, but then everything hit right at once. So I was getting phone calls at 5 a.m. So, anyways, strength for today, over tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you next week. So be safe if you're out there running, and we'll talk to you later. And look for a live feed, possibly on the small channel this weekend. Support the Snorelord OG channel. Peace.